Hello everybody and welcome to this video cast about your first test. So we're going to debrief this test. You'll notice that it's already been entered in Infinite Campus, and of course you can come in anytime during instructional focus and talk to me about your specific test and see how you did. But I wanted to speak more generally about mistakes that students make very commonly at the beginning of the year, primarily because they don't understand the nature of this course. They don't understand that this course is a concept-based course and not a course that's driven by historical detail for its own sake. So let's look at the SAQs you wrote on this test. The first SAQ, you had to identify two social consequences of the shift from stone tools to bronze tools, and this comes right from one of the course objectives, of course, in the curriculum framework that you hear me talk about in class all the time. So you learned in class that the first tools that people had were stone tools. These are Paleolithic people and also Neolithic people who had become farmers. You also know that Neolithic lifestyles generated a surplus of agriculture, which led to the first social hierarchies. You have different social classes. You also had gender hierarchies in this time period. Then people moved to bronze tools. So you can't say that a result of the shift to bronze tools was the creation of the first social hierarchies. Those things already existed. Also, probably the most common wrong answer that people put for this is that bronze allowed for superior weapons. Now you know that that's true, but look at the words of this prompt very carefully. This is about social consequences. Social consequences, and the words of prompts in AP World are very unforgiving. They frame the possible answers that you can make. If you write outside of those limitations, it counts for absolutely nothing. So you can't say that a consequence was better weapons unless you relate that to the rise of a much more important or prominent warrior class or warrior caste, because now you're relating it to something social, which, if you remember, is the way we group human beings. So that's a possible answer. Also, because bronze was so efficient, the surpluses grew, and societies became much more complex because of that. People began to live in cities, and you have many more crafts that can be done, trades and crafts, so society became much more stratified. That's another possible answer for that. So this is a question that deals with Theme 5. If you remember the theme posters on the wall, and the Theme 5 poster, by the way, was on the wall the whole time you took this test. So keep these 5 themes in mind, and when a question asks about one of these themes, be sure that that's what you're writing about. Now, the next SAQ, you had to identify two consequences of the commercial exchanges that occurred between Egypt and Nubia, and you had to use specific examples. Once again, this comes directly from the curriculum framework. This is Key Concept 1.3, Roman numeral 3E. So, what were these exchanges? By the way, this question came directly from your reading. We never discussed this in class. This came out of your assigned reading. So, matter of fact, it specifically came off AP Worldopedia, right there to be exact. And either you didn't do the reading if you missed this question, or when you read it, you didn't read it very carefully, and you might want to consider taking notes on these readings. So the exchanges that came through these through trade were that the Nubians adopted the idea of a pharaoh. They adopted hieroglyphs as a system of writing, and they also built pyramids as tombs for their leaders. So the cultural exchange was pretty significant between them. Let's look at another SAQ you had to write, and in this one you had to describe 2 ways that a system of writing helped to bring unity to large civilizations. Once again, of course, this is in the curriculum framework. So, a system of writing is something like cuneiform, or the hieroglyphs of the Egyptians. So you had to identify those, and then you needed to give me a way that brought unity to a civilization. And you have to be specific when you do this. You have to use the vocabulary and the concrete terms that you learned in class. So you can't say that they had a system of writing, so there were laws. No, you need to be more specific. You need to say something like, the Babylonian Empire had adopted cuneiform so they could develop a system of laws such as the Code of Hammurabi, which brought legal and social unity to a large, expanding, and diverse empire. Now, that would have been quite an ideal answer, but still, it's an example that shows you how you need to pull in all the vocabulary and also contextualize what you're writing about based on the things that you've learned in class. You could also say that writing allowed for the development of a literary tradition, and that creates a shared culture, shared sense of values. And here you might mention the Epic of Gilgamesh and how the story, once this oral tradition was codified through a written language, it could bring a shared vision of the human condition and provide a cultural unity for a civilization. The answer to that question, by the way, was also found on AP Worldopedia, key concept 1.3 Roman numeral 3 right there. So the question might come up, what am I doing wrong? I spent so much time studying. I mean, what the heck happened with this test? And by the way, this test, this is as easy as it's going to get. You were assessed on only 5% of the course content. The next tests are going to be 15 and 20% of the whole content for this course. So what do you have to do to improve your studying for this test? So what is this course like? First of all the content can be organized around 5 themes. And you know what these 5 themes are. You have state building, you have social structures, and you have the interaction of cultures, for example. And when you're reading and when you're studying your notes and the websites for this test, think about how information fits into these themes. But not only that, think about the interaction between these themes. We've already seen how the development of a culture can impact social structures. So there are connections all across these themes. We've seen that technology can help people overcome environmental barriers to trade. So there's a connection between theme 1 and theme 4. So look for these connections. These are causal connections. One thing causes another across these. So keep the 5 themes in mind, but probably most importantly, to understand the conceptual nature of this course, look at the curriculum framework. Look at the big key concepts and the Roman numerals underneath them. That's basically, again, the way AP Worldopedia is organized. So when you're looking at this, and you look, for example, this is key concept 1.3 Roman numeral 3, and you might tend to look at this and notice the word ziggurat and think that, okay, I need to make a flashcard with the word ziggurat and the definition on the back, and think that constitutes proper studying. Well, that won't get you anywhere, because really what you're learning here is not about ziggurats. You're learning about this. You're learning the key concept. You have to understand that cultures played a significant role in unifying states through these means. So when you're studying and you get to a big key concept or a Roman numeral, ask yourself, can I explain this? This is where ziggurats comes in. You can, by the way, it can be ziggurats, it can be pyramids, as long as you can understand that monumental building brought unity to states, that a system of written language brought unity, that literature or belief systems. That's what this is. It's a concept that you have to understand. So don't lose sight of the big picture. Don't lose sight of the forest because of all the trees, and don't get lost in specific things. So that should increase your ability to do well on tests. Keep those things in mind, and period 2 tests will be in a couple weeks, and best of luck to you on that. That is all for today, and I'll see you guys in class.